Imagine this scene. It's 6:30 in the morning. The sound of your alarm isn't just an audible warning, it is a literal mechanical shock to your central nervous system. Your eyelids feel weighed down by an abnormal gravitational pull. Your pulse is racing, and a thick chemical fog blocks your prefrontal cortex, making it almost impossible to process a complex thought. For years, society, self-help books, and high-performance influencers have repeated the exact same narrative: that this chronic morning exhaustion is a moral failing, a lack of discipline, or a symptom that you simply do not want success badly enough. But what the science of molecular chronobiology has just demonstrated is that this narrative is scientifically wrong. You are not lazy, nor are you failing at time management. Your modern work schedule, the classic 9-to-5 model, is actually a direct assault on an ancestral genetic code hidden deep within your DNA. If you have an incapacitating difficulty concentrating or producing before noon, but feel a surgical mental clarity emerge when night falls, you are fighting a losing battle against the PER3 gene, the molecular gear that dictates your survival. Trying to force your body to operate outside your biological schedule is not a matter of willpower. It is violence against your own evolutionary design. How did we end up in this cycle of exhaustion? And why does your DNA refuse to accept the modern alarm clock? The answer lies hidden in a fascinating biological mechanism that saved our species from extinction thousands of years ago. And we are going to dismantle that machinery right now. To understand the root of your exhaustion, we must first dismantle the great myth of the productive morning. We live in a culture that idolizes the beginning of the day, a socioeconomic ecosystem that associates waking up before dawn with moral virtue and efficiency. Slogans about waking up early to win have shaped the architecture of our routines and generated an overwhelming sense of collective guilt in millions of people. If you need coffee just to function in the early hours of the morning, society labels you with the badge of indolence. But the physics of the human body operates under laws far more rigid than corporate productivity rules. When you force your awakening through an artificial sound stimulus while your body is still programmed for rest, you interrupt vital metabolic and neurological processes. What sleep medicine calls sleep inertia is a brutal desynchronization between the wall clock and your central biological clock. During the early morning hours, the brain of a night owl is flooded with melatonin, the rest hormone, while their cortisol levels, the alertness hormone, remain at baseline minimums. Trying to take complex decisions or lead a meeting in this state is the exact biological equivalent of trying to drive a vehicle with the parking brake fully engaged. The surgical truth is that productivity is not a universal mathematical formula that begins at 5 in the morning for everyone. It is a direct biochemical response to the perfect alignment between your daily tasks and your body's hormonal fluctuations, a balance governed by instructions printed into your cells long before you were born. Here is the biological turning point where guilt dies and science takes control. In the center of each of your cells lies a chromosomal structure that houses the PER3 gene, formerly known as the period Circadian Regulator 3. This gene acts as the conductor of a molecular feedback loop that dictates the speed of your internal clock. PER3 possesses a specific genetic variation called a variable number tandem repeat polymorphism. This means that some people inherited a short version of this gene with only 4 repeats of a specific code, while others inherited the long version with 5 repeats. And this tiny molecular difference changes absolutely everything about how you experience your time and your energy. If you have the short version of the PER3 gene, you are genetically an evening specimen, a night owl. The molecular engineering of the short version causes circadian proteins inside your cell nuclei to accumulate slower throughout the day, extending your natural cycle beyond the traditional 24 hours. This means that your biological peak of energy, the exact moment when your cognitive functions and focus hit their zenith, will only happen in the late afternoon or during the night. But here is the inverted revelation that overturns common sense. The night owl does not wake up late because they are lazy. They wake up late because their internal cellular clock literally runs slower than the rotation of planet Earth itself. Demanding that a person with the short version of PER3 have the same morning performance as someone with the long version is a physical impossibility. The exact biological equivalent of putting the wrong fuel into a high-precision engine. But that's not even the strangest part of this story. This molecular difference in the PER3 gene translates into a physical dynamic visible in your brain through a substance called adenosine. Think of adenosine as a grain of sand in a cerebral hourglass. From the second you open your eyes, your brain burns energy and accumulates this substance, creating what neuroscientists call homeostatic sleep pressure. The more adenosine binds to your neuronal receptors, the more tired you feel. In people who carry the long version of the PER3 gene, the early birds, this chemical hourglass empties and fills extremely fast. They wake up with zero sleep pressure, shoot up in productivity early on, but crash into exhaustion as soon as the sun sets. But if you carry the short version of PER3, your chemical machinery is completely different. Your brain builds up adenosine much slower over the hours. In the early morning, your organism hasn't yet processed the chemical residue of the previous night, explaining that persistent feeling of mental fog that no amount of coffee seems to fix. However, as the day progresses and the afternoon arrives, while the early birds are draining their biological batteries, the night owl's brain reaches the perfect sweet spot of molecular balance. Sleep pressure is under control, and cortisol levels finally rise, creating a window of hyper-focused attention and surgical mental clarity that stretches deep into the night. What society labels a productivity flaw is actually a physical chemical dynamic perfectly regulated by your DNA. This was just the beginning. What happened next changed everything, leading to a crucial question. Why would nature give half of humanity a genetic code that makes them unable to operate in the earliest hours of the day? The answer takes us on a time travel journey thousands of years back, straight to the savannas of ancestral Africa. A study conducted with the Hadza tribe in Tanzania, a hunter-gatherer group that maintains the exact lifestyle of our ancestors, revealed something that completely changes our perspective on chronotypes. Scientists monitored the sleep patterns of the entire tribe for weeks and discovered that over a period of nearly 20 days, there was only a single 18-minute interval where all members of the tribe were asleep at the same time. This brutal asynchrony was not an accident, but an impeccable security strategy known as the Sentinel Hypothesis. While the morning individuals woke up with the first light of dawn to monitor the perimeter and start gathering, the night warriors, the night owls of short PER3, stayed awake until 2 or 3 in the morning. And here is the pattern break that redefines our evolution. From the perspective of our species' survival, evening individuals were the guardians of the night. They were the only ones with the neurological alertness necessary to hear a twig snap in the darkness or detect the approach of a predator when the entire tribe was vulnerable. If all of our ancestors had been programmed to wake up at 5 in the morning, our species would have been wiped out before even building the first civilizations. The evolution, therefore, never intended to create a homogeneous humanity that operates under the same alarm clock. It designed a strategic biological chessboard divided into asynchronous chronotypes to ensure the group's resilience. The genetic diversity of PER3 split our species into distinct biological profiles, each with its own hormonal signature and efficiency peaks. The so-called lions, or extreme morning types, are the quick response individuals in the early hours of dawn, but they lose analytical capacity at the end of the day. The wolves, or evening types, are the specialists of the night, designed for vigilance, strategy, and solving complex problems under pressure when the rest of the world is shut down. And between them, there are intermediate chronotypes, the bears, who synchronize their energy with the basic cycle of the sun. The great mistake of modern civilization was trying to treat this masterpiece of evolutionary engineering as a manufacturing defect. When an organization demands that an individual with the wolf chronotype submit highly complex reports at 8 in the morning, it is not just ignoring science. It is taking its best night sentinel and forcing them to watch the field under a light that blinds their natural abilities. The board was dismantled to make way for an assembly line, and the price we are paying is measured in exhaustion, chronic stress, and a devastating decline in our capacity for innovation. And this is where it gets really weird. How did we disconnect so brutally from this evolutionary design? The fault is not your biology, but a crime of social design that began in the 19th century. Before the invention of artificial lighting and the steam engine, humanity operated on an organic, flexible productivity model. Farmers and artisans organized their work windows respecting the weather, seasons, and the natural inclinations of their own bodies. But the Industrial Revolution changed the rules of the game. With factories operating 24 hours a day, coal barons needed a standardized method to control thousands of workers under one roof. In 1817, the industrial Robert Owen coined the famous slogan, 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, 8 hours rest. At first glance, it looked like a humanitarian victory against exploitation. But in practice, this measure consolidated a rigid and artificial format of time that turned human beings into mere gears of a mechanical clock. The 9-to-5 business hours were designed to maximize the efficiency of steam engines and bureaucratic control, not to respect the cellular variations of the PER3 gene. We inherited a social structure created for 19th century factory workers and are trying to fit 21st century knowledge professionals and creatives into it. And this historical disconnection is the true root of your continuous feeling of burnout. Hold on, because what comes next rewrites everything you just heard. This blind insistence on maintaining an obsolete temporal structure generated a silent modern pathology that medicine has dubbed social jet lag. This is the chronic discrepancy between what your biological clock demands and what your social calendar imposes. If you are forced to wake up at 6 in the morning from Monday to Friday, but your PER3 gene only allows you to fall asleep at 1 in the morning, you accumulate a severe sleep debt every day. When the weekend arrives and you sleep until noon to make up for it, your brain is air-messed from one time zone to another in less than 48 hours. The impact of this isn't just a yawn in the afternoon. Research shows that chronic social jet lag alters the architecture of the prefrontal cortex, reducing emotional resilience and increasing cellular inflammation levels. It is precisely in this scenario of biological vulnerability that the charade of the 5 a.m. gurus thrives. An industry has been built on the premise that joining the 5 a.m. club is the ultimate secret to success. They exhibit flawless routines featuring meditation and ice baths before sunrise, suggesting that anyone who cannot replicate this pattern lacks ambition. But molecular science demonstrates that these gurus do not possess more discipline than you. They simply possess the long version of the PER3 gene. They are just operating within their natural biological peaks. Selling the early morning routine as a universal high-performance formula is dangerous scientific ignorance, a distorted reframe of perspective that turns a genetic inheritance into a supposed moral superiority. Trying to copy an opposite chronotype does not make you successful. It only accelerates your burnout. But here is what nobody tells you about this. If you cannot alter the sequence of the PER3 gene in your DNA, the solution does not lie in fighting your cells, but in applying a scientific protocol of biological management to synchronize your central clock with daily demands. The first practical tool involves the strategic manipulation of light, our brain's primary environmental synchronizer. If you are a chronic evening type and must operate early, you should flood your eyes with high-intensity light within the first 30 minutes of waking up, utilizing preferably sunlight or 10,000 lux phototherapy lamps. This stimulus accelerates the breakdown of residual melatonin and forces your cellular clock to advance its cycle, eliminating morning brain fog. The second tool is anchoring your high-impact cognitive window. Identify the exact moment when your mental clarity hits its peak. For wolves, usually between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m., and shield this period against mechanical tasks or bureaucratic meetings. Use this biological golden window to execute your most complex or strategic work, accepting that your first hours of the day are best reserved for operational activities of low cognitive effort. Finally, apply sleep hygiene. Establish a rigid barrier against screens starting at 10 p.m. and cool your bedroom to 19 degrees, signaling to the hypothalamus that it is time to initiate rest. By stopping the habit of viewing your night biology as a defect and managing it as the high-precision tool that it is, you assume command of your potential. The exhaustion you feel when waking up early is not a sign of laziness, but the silent, legitimate protest of your cells against an artificial time model that ignores the history of our species. Molecular biology and anthropology have proven that our survival depended, and still depends, on our asynchrony, on the existence of night guardians and dawn sentinels operating in different biological shifts. True success does not consist of forcing your organism to fit into an industrial gear created 200 years ago, but in having the analytical clarity and courage to architect your routine around the evolutionary design printed in your DNA. When you align your daily demands with the rhythm of the PER3 gene, productivity stops being an exhausting daily battle and transforms into a natural, high-performance biological flow. After all, you were not designed to be just another identical piece on a commercial assembly line. You were designed to be the strategic sentinel of your own destiny. What are you going to do with your biological energy window now that you finally understand where it comes from? Have you already realized what your true chronotype is in daily life? If this helped you understand yourself a little better, subscribe. More stories like this are on the way. See you in the next one.